Aloha, this is Kaipacha, and it is February 6th. This is the weekly Pele report for 2013. This is a weekly astrological forecast for what this weekend in particular is going to be like. There's a number of different things going on, and I start out with the astrology, and then we talk a little bit about what it all means. I got a little bit of sun in my face here, but I'm going to pull this off. This is a very wonderful closing to the lunar cycle. On right now, Wednesday, February 6th, the moon is in Capricorn. It's conjuncting with Pluto, like as I speak, and then it's moving through Capricorn, going into Aquarius on Friday, and then we have a new moon at 21 degrees of Aquarius on Saturday. Then that moon continues to move on. Sunday it goes into Pisces for a couple of days, and then I think by Tuesday it's back into Aries. Yeah. So this is the closing phases, the closing cycle of the moon, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then it culminates in that new moon. I'm going to talk about that. The new moon is like a seed. I think of the mustard seed. This is a field of mustard that I've got going on out here today. I think of the parable of the mustard seed. It's the tiniest, tiniest little seed that grows into the biggest, biggest, biggest tree, something like that. Anyway, in addition to the procession of the moon through Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, this weekend holds a number of other significant events. Mercury and Mars. Mercury kind of catches up to Mars in Pisces, and we have a Mercury-Mars conjunction, and that Mercury-Mars conjunction squares Jupiter down there in the sign of Gemini. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we have a Mercury-Mars conjunction, and then Saturday, Mercury squares Jupiter. Sunday, Mars squares Jupiter. At the same time, Venus is moving through Aquarius, and on Sunday it squares Saturn over there in Scorpio. So we have a couple of different things. I talked a little bit about the Aquarius square Scorpio last week, so I don't want to repeat myself, but I want to go into a little bit more about what this indicates. Number one, I would say Mercury head, Mars hot. Hot head. You put these two together and you get a hot head. And that heat and your passion and your kundalini rises up into your head. And sometimes it can be impulsive thinking, impulsive speech. You start thinking a million miles a minute. And don't forget now, you know, this is interesting because Mercury is the left brain, but it's in the sign of Pisces, which has no brain. Yeah, Pisces is not brain. Pisces is spirit. So this is this opportunity, actually, on one level, for our left brain, Mercury, to join with Mars and get all this feeling and passion and desire to break through into spiritual samadhi, nirvana. And the world, the infinite world of unbounded, unconditional love. It's very beautiful. But it squares that Jupiter. Jupiter down there in Gemini, okay, is just like, okay, more information, you know, more emails, you know, more communication, more networking. I got to bring everybody with me, and I've got to, you know, so the square can create a little bit of tension. And not only a little bit of tension, but, you know, with Jupiter, it's not always tension. It's just excess. It's too much, where you may just get a little, you know, a little spaced out. I would say take it easy, you know, on all forms of addictions. Pisces is addictions, that desire to escape, avoid, deny what's really like right here in front of me, particularly on Sunday, because Venus is square Saturn on Sunday. And there may be some unpleasant things, unpleasant feelings coming up. It's interesting to have this Mercury-Mars conjunct Chiron and Neptune up there in Pisces. It can be a very healing weekend, a healing experience, if we don't get carried away with too much. And I want to just, bring some things that I got this weekend from this family constellation that I've been doing. These different kinds of breath. The belly breath, breathing into your belly, is going to bring that energy down, relax you, and bring you into your body. And if you're too depressed or you're too down, do some chest, upper breathing, upper chest breathing. Through the nose, exhale through the mouth. That will lift you up and lift your spirits. Use your breath to somewhat regulate this Mercury, Mars, Jupiter experience. And to also just be able to, Pisces is reflection, passively sitting and watching the river flow. So it can be this is a great time for writing music, writing poetry, writing your dreams, and using that energy of your left brain to penetrate into the spiritual world, rather than get caught up in too many explanations, justifications, ramifications, conversations, and get caught up in the monkey mind. I think of that little rat in the cage on the wheel, making it go. And then we have to look at this Venus square Saturn, because that may be some of the subject matter for the mind to be chewing on here. And we want to look back. It was November 25th, right during those eclipses last November. Some of you may remember about 3 months ago. The 25th of November was when Venus conjoined with Saturn over there in Scorpio. And that was a time of reflecting on our commitments, reflecting on our contracts, changing our situation, particularly with relationships, with shared values and shared experiences, and our sexuality, our bodies, the way that we are really deeply or not connecting with our partners. And don't forget now, Saturn has a lot to do with this reflection. It also has a lot to do with suppression and holding in. So I think that this Venus wants now that first square, it's breaking away from Saturn. And that breaking away square says that now something can come out. Now we may be able to see deeper into that time period, but also deeper into our issues that need to finish and close, be released, so that we have this new moon in Aquarius. And I talked about Aquarius. Aquarius is liberation from the past and an opening of the third eye into a new vision for the future. So this can be a very enlightening weekend. And part of enlightenment deals with bringing up our unconscious into the light of consciousness. And Saturn in Scorpio is still really bringing a lot of loneliness, a lot of separation, a lot of angst around how intimate we can manage to be or not. And this really brings me into, it's so beautiful because Aquarius is non-attachment. It's an air sign. And it allows us to get a bigger, wider, broader perspective on things. And we do that by not taking things personally, and also not getting lost in guilt. I blame myself for this is what happened, or I blame this other person for something that happened. I didn't get enough. Saturn has to do with limitation. This can be, I'm not getting enough sex. I'm not getting enough intimacy. I'm not feeling enough of a connection. We can blame ourselves for that. We can blame the other person for that. But this weekend is a time, actually, Aquarius says, you know what? Get out of this personal my stuff or your stuff and look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that we're all dealing with our infant childhood, with what happened to us in the womb of our mother and how she was feeling, and how much we connected with our father or with our mother in early childhood, especially the first 6 months, up to 3 to 6 years. These are the really formative times. And as we look into our past and our connection with our parents, that really, it comes into this place of if we feel a sense of abandonment, if we feel like we didn't get enough from one of our parents, then we can be looking for that in our partners and be needy and be grasping. There's all kinds of manifestations of it. But one thing that I came to was, if there's a separation from the mother early on, and I mean, I can feel this personally, but there is this tremendous intensity of need to be nurtured and cared for when you are an infant. And if that doesn't happen, then there can be this break. I'm never going to need again. I'm going to be independent, and I'm going to harden myself from now on, and I'm not going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to be free and independent and not need anybody. And this hardening is the result of a separation, but it affects all the relationships down the road. And then a partner, if you're being so independent and you're hardened, your partner may feel like they're not needed or they're not loved, and you can have issues in your relationships. So if we look at this bigger, broader picture, your partner may be suffering from some kind of rejecting of the parent, previous partnerships. Whenever, like I said, whenever we exclude anyone from our lives, from our intimate connections, we cut the life force, we slow the life force, we don't have as much energy, drive, capacity to love again. So this is a time, Pisces is about softening. Mars in Pisces is softening, conjunct Chiron. All of this healing is around a softening. And we are all hardened in some ways by past hurts. So what you want to do is you want to forgive yourself for not being able to love fully and completely, unconditionally. And then you want to forgive your partner and not blame them for not being able to love or fully, open their heart to you. Because then you look back at their parents and their family and their siblings and their past. And this is this Aquarius getting up out of, oh, it's just me and you, and I get all this from you, or you don't have this from me. Or you breathe and you relax and you soften and you rise. And you look at the big history and the big picture, and you come into a place of awareness that allows more love to grow until you have a field of mustard from those tiny little seeds. Yeah. So, the mantra for this week is, as I allow the world and myself to change, letting go of the guilt and all the self-blame, I unfreeze the picture and release all the pressure, thereby discovering the buried treasure. Yeah. Another thing I learned this last weekend, I got to bring it forward. Once you diagnose something, you have stopped the field of inquiry. Once you say you're wrong and I'm right, or I'm right and you're wrong, as soon as you define something and you come to a limited place where you can act, and you freeze that moment and you freeze that relationship in that's the way it is, and you get stuck. And this Mercury, Mars, you know, with this Jupiter, this is a time to get unstuck, unfreeze the frame of what happened, and don't jump to conclusions. The Mercury Mars likes to kind of jump to conclusions. But the more we can leave it open, that allows the other partner to change, that allows, on yourself, it allows you to change. So it's good to not get stuck in these, this is what happened and done. That's it. And it's your fault. Yeah. One more time then, it is, as I allow the world and myself to change, letting go of the guilt and all the self-blame, I unfreeze the picture and release all the pressure, thereby discovering the buried treasure. Namaste, aloha, so much love.